Hello listeners and viewers, welcome to Kaduna State Ministry of Education Radio and TV e-learning program designed for our SS3 and other students staying at home due to the coronavirus pandemic. The present administration under the able leadership of His Excellency, Malam Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai, is positioned as always to ensure that under his leadership, our students are not left behind in all areas of human endeavors, especially education. Kaduna State is the center of learning. Therefore, we want to ensure that our students excel in their forthcoming examinations and beyond. Students and other learners at home are given this opportunity in order to continue learning, as education is a continuous process. Different subjects will be taught in this program to assist students to perform excellently in the forthcoming Senior School Certificate examination being conducted by NECO and WAEC as soon as schools reopen. Teachers making presentations will always provide their names and phone numbers during each presentation, and they can be contacted for questions, further explanations, and/or clarifications. The following numbers and contacts can also be reached for expression of any concern or observation: 090-865-00545 or 080-383-62072. Our website is www.education.kdsg.gov.ng. Our email education@kdsg.gov.ng or education.kdsg@gmail.com. Our YouTube channel, Ministry of Education, Kaduna State. Our Twitter handle @Kaduna_MOE. Or our Facebook page, Ministry of Education, Kaduna State. Stay safe, stay at home, and learn well. Thank you, happy listening, and happy viewing.
My well-able learners, welcome to another beautiful segment of our lesson in mathematics. I remain Yakubu Fidelix. Today we are continuing with quadratic equations. And the subtopic is methods of solving quadratic equations. We are considering the B method today, which is known as method of completing the square. Recall that in our previous lesson, we treated factorization method as number one. So take note today, we are considering the completing the square method. In completing the square method, there are some rules that must be observed. Take note, in completing the square method, there are some rules that must be observed. Number one rule is, make sure the coefficient of x squared is 1. Make sure the coefficient of x squared is 1. Number two, transfer the constant to the right-hand side. Transfer the constant to the right-hand side. Number three, find half the coefficient of x. Square it and add on both sides to make an equation a perfect square. I repeat that, the three rules, because they are very, very imperative. And these three rules are derived from the general quadratic equation form, that is ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. The three rules are derived from the general quadratic equation form, ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. Number one, make sure the coefficient of x squared is 1. Take note, your x here could be y, your x here could be z, your x here could be t, etc., etc. Rule number 2, transfer the constant to the right-hand side. Transfer the constant to the right-hand side. And rule number 3, find half the coefficient of x. Find half the coefficient of x. Square it, and add on both sides to make an equation a perfect square. And add on both sides to make an equation a perfect square. Now we are going to see some examples to back up the rules that are to be observed under the completing the square. Examples. Solve the following equations by completing the square method. A, x squared minus 6x plus 8 equals to 0. A, x squared minus 6x plus 8 equals to 0. B, 3k squared plus 2k minus 1 equals to 0. 3k squared plus 2k minus 1 equals to 0. Solutions. Here are the solutions. A, x squared minus 6x plus 8 equals to 0. Now, take note, rule number 1, make sure the coefficient of x squared is 1. Make sure the coefficient of x squared is 1. In respect of this equation, you can see that the coefficient of x squared is already 1. However, 1 is not written there, but mathematically there is 1. Why? Because 1 times x squared will give you x squared. 1 times x squared will give you x squared. So condition number 1 is already accomplished. Condition number 1 is already accomplished because the coefficient of x squared is 1. We now move to condition number 2. Condition number 2 says, transfer the constant to the right-hand side. Transfer the constant to the right-hand side. The constant here is plus 8. When plus 8 is transferred to the right-hand side, becomes minus 8. When plus 8 is transferred to the right-hand side, becomes minus 8. Then we move to condition number 3. Condition number 3 says, find half of x. Find half of x, which is the middle term. And the coefficient of x here is minus 6. The coefficient of x in the equation is minus 6. So to find half of minus 6 becomes minus 6 divided by 2. Minus 6 divided by 2. And minus 6 divided by 2, the answer is minus 3. Minus 6 divided by 2, the answer is minus 3. Then next, square it. When you square minus 3 becomes minus 3 to power 2. When you square minus 3 becomes minus 3 to power 2. Then the next step is add minus 3 square on both sides to make an equation a perfect square. Add minus 3 on both sides to make an equation a perfect square. So the equation now becomes x squared minus 6x plus 3 squared on the left. X squared minus 6x plus 3 squared on the left. And the right becomes minus 8 plus 3 squared minus 8 plus 3 squared. But take note, I say add minus 3 squared, but on the process of adding, I add plus 3 squared. Mathematically, minus 3 squared means minus 3 times minus 3, and that will give you positive 9. Minus 3 times minus 3, that will give you positive 9. So also, plus 3 squared can be simplified as plus 3 times plus 3. That will also give you plus 9. So we can now agree that minus 3 squared and plus 3 squared will give you the same result. That is why we write x squared minus 6x plus 3 squared on the left and minus 8 plus 3 squared also on the right. Then, when you look at the equation, there are 3 signs there. The coefficient of x squared is positive. That is why you can see plus there. The coefficient of x squared is positive. You can see plus there. The coefficient of the middle term, which is x there, is minus 6. That's why you can see minus there. The coefficient of the middle term is minus. That's why you can see minus there. And look at the constant. It's plus. The constant there is positive. That is why you can see plus there. Please, I take that again because it's very, very important. The coefficient of x squared is positive. Look at the plus is written. And the coefficient of the middle term is negative. Negative is written. And the constant there is positive. Positive is written. Now there are three signs to be considered. But take note, you can see conspicuously that the center sign is circled. To tell you that it is the center sign you should always use. To tell you that it is the center sign you should always use. Now, we are going to factorize the left-hand side. We are going to factorize the left-hand side. You can now see that your x has square. And your 3 also has square, which is the constant. So I brought the x, then use the middle side, which is negative. You can see the negative there. Then the constant, which is 3. Then I put them in square. I repeat that again. X has square. And 3 also has square. So I brought the x in bracket, then the middle side, which is negative, written. Then I also brought the 3, which is the constant, all in bracket, raised to the power of 2. Which simply means that if you expand minus 3 to the power of 2, which becomes minus 3, x, which becomes x minus 3 times x minus 3, certainly it will give you that very expression, x squared minus 6x plus 3 squared. In other words, you can put it x squared minus 6x plus 9. Because plus 3 times plus 3 will give you plus 9. Take note, if you expand minus 3x minus 3 squared, it will give you x squared minus 6x plus 3 squared or plus 9. Then the right hand side becomes minus 8 plus 9. Because plus 3 squared means plus 3 times plus 3, and that will give you plus 9. Now, minus 8 plus 9. I'm trying to simplify the right-hand side. Minus 8 plus 9. If you have understood your multiplication, your directed numbers very well, then the result is positive 1. Minus 8 plus 9, if you understood your directed numbers very well, then that gives you plus 1. So the equation now becomes x minus 3 in bracket raised to power 2 equals to 1. X minus 3 in bracket raised to power 2 equals to 1. Let's go further. Now, to eliminate the square and find the value of x, we are to take the square root on both sides. To eliminate the square and find the value of x, we are to take the square root on both sides. So that becomes the square root of x minus 3 all raised to the power of 2 equals plus or minus 1, a plus or minus square root of 1 becomes plus or minus square root of 1. Why is it plus or minus? We've treated that before because it's an even root there. Now, by simplification, this x minus 3, square root of x minus 3, all raised to the power of 2 by indices can be written as x minus 3, all raised to the power of 1 over 2 times 2. X minus 3 all raised to the power 1 over 2 times 2. And when you simplify that, you can see that 1 over 2 times 2 will give you 1. 1 over 2 times 2 will give you 1. So that means x minus 3 in bracket all raised to the power of 1 will give you x minus 3. Will give you x minus 3, which is equal to the right hand side, which is plus or minus square root of 1. And of course, the square root of 1 simply means one number can multiply itself to give you 1, and that number is 1. So we now have x minus 3 equals plus or minus 1. We shall now try to simplify the exact value of x. Now, this implies when minus 3 crosses to the right becomes plus 3. When minus 3 on the left crosses to the right becomes plus 3. So x now equals to 3 plus minus 1. X now equals to 3 plus minus 1. This implies if you are using the positive sign first, then your x becomes 3 plus 1. 3 plus 1, and 3 plus 1 equals to 4. So x equals to 4. Or if you are using the negative sign, your x becomes 3 minus 1. 3 minus 1, and of course, 3 minus 1 will give you 2. Conclusively, our x is equals to 4 or 2. Conclusively, our x gives 4 or 2. Second example. Number 2 example. 3k squared plus 2k minus 1 equals to 0. 3k squared plus 2k minus 1 equals to 0. We shall follow the same procedures that we have learned initially. Which says, number 1 says, make sure the coefficient of x squared is 1. Here our x squared can be replaced by k squared. Our x squared can be replaced by k squared. We are now saying that make sure the coefficient of k squared is 1. How then can we make the coefficient of k squared to be 1? We are now going to divide through by 3. How then can we make the coefficient of k squared to be 1? We are to divide through by 3. So therefore, when we divide through by 3, the equation becomes 3k squared over 3 plus 2k over 3 minus 1 over 3 equals to 0 over 3. And 3k squared divided by 3, you can see 3 in the denominator cancels 3 in the numerator, and that gives 1. 1 times k squared equals to k squared. 1 times k squared equals to k squared. Plus 2 over 3k minus 1 over 3. And 0 divided by 3, the answer is 0. 0 divided by 3, the answer is 0. That is why my right-hand side gives 0. We move to condition number 2. What is condition number 2 saying? Transfer the constant to the right-hand side. Transfer the constant to the right-hand side. The constant here is minus 1 over 3. The constant here is minus 1 over 3. When minus 1 over 3 is transferred to the right-hand side, becomes plus 1 over 3. Becomes plus 1 over 3. So the equation now is k squared plus 2 over 3k equals to 1 over 3. K squared plus 2 over 3k equals to 1 over 3. Condition number 3. Find half the coefficient of k. Find half the coefficient of k. That is why you can see I write 1 over 2 into the coefficient of k, which is plus 2 over 3. I wrote 1 over 2 into the coefficient of k, which is plus 2 over 3. And of course, 1 over 2 times plus 2 over 3, the answer will give us, by simplification, you will get plus 1 over 3. By simplification, you will get plus 1 over 3. Then next, square it. Square it. So when you square plus 1 over 3, you can now see that you are going to have 1 over 3 square. You can now see that you are going to have 1 over 3 square. So now, add 1 over 3 square on both sides to make an equation a perfect square. Add 1 over 3 on both sides to make an equation a perfect square. So that gives k squared plus 2 over 3k plus 1 over 3 square gives 1 over 3 plus 1 over 3 square. I repeat that. K squared on the left plus 2 over 3k plus 1 over 3 square gives 1 over 3 plus 1 over 3 square. Now, the coefficient of k square is plus 1. The coefficient of k square is positive. That is why you can see plus is written there. Then the coefficient of k is also positive. You can see plus is written as the what? As the middle term there. Then the constant is also positive. So you have plus, plus, plus. Conspicuously, you can see that I cycle the what? The center sign, which is positive, meaning that is a sign that you should always use. Now, that becomes k has square. We are going to factorize it now. K has square, so you bring the k. And 1 over 3 also has square. You bring 1 over 3, then take note of the middle sign, which is positive there. So look at positive is written. I take that again. K has square. Bring the k. 1 over 3 also has square. Bring 1 over 3 and take note of the middle sign. So that gives k plus 1 over 3 all raised to the power of 2 will give 1 over 3 plus 1 over 9. Will give 1 over 3 plus 1 over 9. Why is it 1 over 9? Because on the right hand side we have plus 1 over 3 square. And 1 over 3 square can be simplified as 1 over 3 times 1 over 3. 1 over 3 times 1 over 3. And 1 over 3 times 1 over 3 will give you 1 over 9. 1 over 3 times 1 over 3 will give you 1 over 9. So, what do we have now? By simplifying the right hand side, by taking the LCM of 3 and 9, the LCM is 9 there. When you take the LCM of 3 and 9, the LCM is what? It's 9. 3 into 9, the answer is 3. 3 into 9, the answer is 3. 3 times the numerator 1, the answer gives you what? 3. They also come to 9. 9 into 9, the answer is 1. 9 into 9, the answer is 1. 1 times 1 will give you 1. So we now have 3 plus 1 over 9. That gives 3 plus 1 over 9. And of course, 3 plus 1 will give you what? Will give you 4. So you can now see that gives you 4 over 9. What is the new equation now? The new equation becomes bracket k plus 1 over 3 in square. Bracket k plus 1 over 3 in square equals to 4 over 9. My dear learners, if you expand k plus 1 over 3 square, it will give you an expression on the left, which is k square plus 2 over 3k plus 1 over 3 square, which can also be written as k square plus 2 over 3k plus 1 over 9 by simplification. So we now have that k plus 1 over 3 all in square equals to 4 over 9. Let's go further. To find the value of k, we have to find the means of eliminating the square. Then how? How can we eliminate the square? We can eliminate the square by taking the square root on both sides. We can eliminate the square by taking the square root on both sides. So that becomes square root of k plus 1 over 3 all in square equals to plus or minus square root of 4 over 9 equals to plus or minus square root of 4 over 9. Why is it plus or minus? Don't forget, because it's an even root there. So by simplification, by indices on the left, the square root of k plus 1 over 3 raised to the power of 2 can be written as k plus 1 over 3 all raised to the power of 2 times 1 over 2. Can be written as k plus 1 over 3 all raised to the power of 2 times 1 over 2. By simplification, that becomes k plus 1 over 3. By simplification, your left hand side becomes k plus 1 over 3. And the square root of 4 on the left is 2. And the square root of 9 on the square root of 4 on the right is 2. And the square root of 9 on the right also is what? Is 3. So that becomes k plus 1 over 3 equals to plus or minus 2 over 3. Let's collect the like terms. Plus 1 over 3 on the left, when crosses to the right, become minus 1 over 3. Become minus 1 over 3. That is why you can see your right hand side becomes minus 1 over 3 plus or minus 2 over 3. Minus 1 over 3 plus or minus 2 over 3. To find the value of k, if you want the value of k now become, you find the LCM, 3 is the common denominator there. So the numerator becomes minus 1 plus minus 2 over 3. 3 is the common denominator there. The numerator becomes minus 1 plus or minus 2 over 3. Let's go. To find the value of k, if you are using the positive sign, then k becomes minus 1 plus 2 over 3. Minus 1 plus 2 over 3. And of course, when you simplify, minus 1 plus 2 over 3 will give you what? 1 over 3. Will give you 1 over 3. Oh! If you are using the negative sign now, your k becomes minus 1 minus 2 over 3. Your k becomes minus 1 minus 2 over 3. And by simplification, if you have truly understood your directed numbers, minus 1 minus 2 will give you minus 3. Minus 1 minus 2 will give you minus 3. So that becomes minus 3 over the denominator, which is 3. And by simplification, that will give you minus 1. By simplification, that will give you minus 1. The final answer becomes k equals to minus 1 or 1 over 3. The final answer becomes k equals to minus 1 or 1 over 3. Before we round up our lesson, I have an assignment for you. Make sure this assignment is done by following the 3 principles that I gave you right from the inception of this topic, of this method of teaching, that is completing the square method, in order to arrive at the correct answer. Here is the assignment. Solve the following by completing the square. Solve the following by completing the square. 1, 6y squared minus y minus 2 equals to 0. I take that again. 6y squared minus y minus 2 equals to 0. Number 2, 9d squared minus 6d plus 1 equals to 0. I take that again. 9d squared minus 6d plus 1 equals to 0. Here are the references of my presentation. One is New General Mathematics for Senior Secondary School. The authors include M.F. Macri, Z.I. Chima, G.U. Garba, etc. and etc. Then number 2, I have YA question and answer, which can be tagged as Q&A. Then number 3, I have Comprehensive Mathematics for Senior Secondary School by D.B. Adu. I remain Yakubu Fidelix. Here is my contact number, 080-2525-5287. I remain Yakubu Fidelix. You can reach me through this number, 080-2525-5287. Stay home, stay safe, keep learning, and practice well. Thank you.